Here we're going to take a look at a workflow with this photograph of my beautiful sister, Amanda. She's one of my favorite people in the world. And I really like this photograph of her. I'm super proud of who she is as a person. I want to create a nice portrait here, and I want to use Lightroom in order to give me some creative options with this image. Now, for starters, I like the image as it is. Yet you may have worked on this one previously, so before we actually do anything, click on the reset button. That will take everything back to normal. And the original file as it is, I like it. It's good. So let's first make a few subtle changes and then also get a little bit creative. One of the things I want to do here is open up the Navigator panel. So I'll go ahead and open that up. Then I'll press the W key to access the white balance tool. Now here I'm going to turn on auto dismiss because I typically like to do that. I'm going to hover over the different areas of the image that I think should be neutral. For example, like her shirt here. Well, let's click on that and let's look at our color temperature and see what happens. Well, the shirt's white, but everything else is just so yellow. That doesn't really look very good. So press Command-Z on a Mac, Control-Z on Windows. Notice that what happened was our temperature went from 4,000 to about 7,000. Well, that wasn't very good, but a little bit of warming might be nice. And the reason why I'm illustrating that is sometimes you find that your white balance tool might be a little bit too heavy-handed. Well, in those situations, you can just dial in the white balance that you want by simply dragging the slider there. In regards to the histogram, looks like we have some good details. Let's press the J key to make sure we don't have any overexposed areas of the image. Let's increase our exposure and see if we can bring in a little bit more brightness. Now as we do that, we lose detail in these areas here. So if we want to brighten it, we're going to have to use recovery to bring back some of those details. And in this case, I don't think it's going to make sense to add exposure at all. Our exposure straight out of the camera is just fine. Maybe a little bit of fill light in there, bring in some contrast. As we do that, though, you can see that the yellow becomes a little bit more yellow. Remember, contrast increases color saturation. So in that case, we may want to modify our color temperature and get it just right. Okay, what about clarity? That will add some mid-tone snap to this photograph. Definitely want a bit of that. And then perhaps just a little bit of vibrance and saturation work as well, actually decreasing the color saturation. Well, I have this indicator still on. That's distracting. So let's press the J key to get rid of that. Or here, our first look at the image where it's at currently. Press the backslash key. There's before and then after. Again, the image feels a little bit too warm for me. I want to keep in mind that I want to warm this up, but I don't want to overdo it. And in this case, I think that's looking pretty nice. Again, pretty subtle change, but a little bit of warmth there. All right, well, what's next with a photograph like this? Well, one of the things that I know that I'm going to need to do is to work on the crop. So in order to do that, let's create a virtual copy. Here we'll press Command apostrophe. And next we'll press the R key to select our crop tool. Press the O key to toggle between the different overlays. And once we have one of those overlays on, what we might want to do is hide this. And here's what I like to do with the tool overlay is auto. In other words, when I click and drag my crop, I can see the overlay. When I let go, it disappears. And it may help me determine a nice way to crop this image. I'm also going to look to try to level things out just a bit, so I'm clicking and dragging this just a touch there. And I'll move this around and perhaps make a little bit of a tighter crop. That might be kind of fun. And then just work on the overall rotation. It doesn't have to be perfect, but again, I'm just looking to try to capture something which has a bit more of a close-up shot of my sister there. All right, well, the great thing about working with virtual copies is that we can, of course, toggle back and forth between these two options. Here's the original image, and then here's the virtual copy. Well, let's say that we like the virtual copy better. Can we delete the original image? Well, yeah. Simply click on it and then hit the delete key. What that will do is it will delete the virtual copy and turn this into your master photograph. So in other words, we simply kind of replaced what was there with this version. So if ever you're working with virtual copies and you want to delete either the virtual copy or the master photograph, you can do one thing or the other. In this case, we simply deleted what used to be the master photograph. This one then became that. Well, so far so good. What else can we do here with this image? Well, one of the things that I want to do is I want to process this image in some creative ways. But before I get to my creativity, before I get too carried away with that, let's evaluate the sharpness and also some of the other details in the photograph. So let's explore some of those values and a few other things in the next movie.